that we were going to see the Tory majority that, in fact, we now have in this country, what I want to know is, should I buy stocks from you?
No, I think it's just easier to call elections in Canada, to predict what might happen in an election. It's easier to be a forecaster than it is to call horse races and try and be a handicapper and predict horses. I think election campaigns are much easier to deal with, and I've always enjoyed them. And you know, I get it. First of all, where is Gilbert? Why isn't he here?
Well, you're putting me on the spot, Fred.
Well, I mean, one of Canada's great broadcast. Is he just disappeared from the scrolls? Is he? Where is he? What is he doing?
John has some managerial duties to attend to today. And
I see. Well, you know, it's CKY in the old days when Templeton and Charles Templeton and Pierre Burton used to do this thing where they beat their gums at one another. Oh, it went on for years and years and years. If Everly wasn't there, and there was two other stand-ins, they always used to say, Charles Templeton and Pierre Burton are not with us today on Dialogue. They're on assignment. So we could say right. Gilbert is on assignment.
John Gilbert Fred is on assignment today.
All right. Well, that's okay. As long as someone's taping this to play it back, you know. Because first of all, there's some people who owe me money who phoned up after I talked with him, and they made some rather outrageous claims on behalf of Turner and the Liberals, and somehow I got them. They got their shorts in a knot, and they started getting all, you know, a vibration in their knickers, and they wanted to gamble on the election. I should be picking up a few $5 bills here and there from some of these people. One person I discouraged from making an awful huge wager. This is a woman who's managing a hotel somewhere in Toronto. She got so exercised, she said, I gotta get to that Fred C Dobbs. I wanna bet him $500. Well, I told her, I said, I bet $5 on people and $2 on horses. There's no way we're gonna make it any more than that. So we saved her $495. You know, I thought, so this is a chance for her to call me again and pay me the $5. You know what this reminds me of? I called Ian Brownlee last week, and I seen a show in Edmonton, an all-candidate show, and it was on cable television. There was one young fella representing the Rhinoceros Party, and he was a real comedian. He said the Rhinoceros Party thinks that some people, you're talking about abortion, what is each candidate's position on abortion? Well, he says the Rhinoceros position on abortion is simply this: some people who have been aborted should not have been, and some people who are living should be aborted, and that was the end of him. And a woman phoned and said, I'd like to speak to the fella representing the Rhinoceros Party. And the moderator said, yes, go ahead. And she said, you are the nicest looking person sitting there. How do you take to flattery? Well, the guy couldn't say anything. He was all of a sudden like a racehorse with a tongue strap on. He couldn't say a word.
God, someone took him seriously.
Yeah, now what happens is at the end of the show, it's time to sum up. Each candidate given a chance, a few minutes to sum up. Well, they come to the Rhinoceros representative, the last one on the show. And so he says, you know that woman who called, about 20 minutes ago, I would like her to phone me in the next 3 minutes. I would like to talk to her. That's how that... We had an awful sober-sides coverage of this election. I mean, I've met people who thought the whole thing was a disgrace. I've met people. I had a letter from an Irishman, old Tony Ross, in down Peterborough way. A wonderful fella, great commentator on the passing political social scene. Too good for public broadcasting in this country. Just too good. And he said the political charade, now flamboyant, is a shoddy humbling of a great nation. I thought that was an interesting line, eh? Just to comment on the sort of grossness, vulgarity of it all, the desperation of it all, the flim-flam of it all. I coined something yesterday about Turner that I'm going to recycle with you, Jay, right now. I think one thing that Turner done when he began the campaign was he began the campaign with Pierre Trudeau telling him what to do. And John Turner ended the election campaign with Keith Davey telling him what to do. I think therein dispels the notion of somebody new. Now Turner can be new. He can go, he don't know, as far as I can see, he don't owe anybody anything. He can start right from the ground up and go ahead and I paid tribute to him yesterday. I said, you know, I stayed up to see Quadra, the results coming in from Vancouver Quadra. I used to live in Vancouver for about 9 years. I always liked the name Quadra, Indian name, you know. In fact, there's a quadra bus. You wait in Vancouver for a quadra bus. Turner was there, and for the first time I thought he looked terrific standing there. And I know everything's just in shatters. You can imagine how the guy must have felt. But he looked out at people and he said, in a free society, the people are always right. And by gosh, you know, one of the hardest lines in theater to deliver is I love you. You can stump almost any actor in the world, John Gielgud, Sir Laurence Olivier, Robert Redford, don't matter who it is, Joe Bozo, it ain't gonna matter. To say I love you is something an actor has a terrible time saying. And for a man like Turner to get up and say after that disaster, in a free society, the people are always... Do you know what he meant it? It was not an act. I could tell he meant it. It was coming right out of the man, and I said, boys, oh boys, now that you're free of Trudeau, and you're free of Davy and Grafstein and Goldfarb and all these horrendous people that have been around you, you sound like somebody. Go from now on. Build the thing up, because you cannot have a good democracy if you've got one party in power with a giant majority forming the government and a pathetic opposition. Canadian politics has always been lousy because we have never had good opposition. We have never had a proper sort of balance of ideas and people represented coast to coast. Now that to me is the good thing in the Tory win. We've got people from across this country. There is no Liberal government today in office. I don't say that sort of with great relish. I'm not gloating about it. But they've got to start and build. Otherwise, there is just a possibility. The NDP have always tried to play this card. There's just a possibility we could finally slide into what Great Britain has. A party of the right, the Conservatives, a party of the left, the NDP, and never see any Liberals again. It could happen. It is not impossible. Today, the NDP is the official opposition in English Canada. That is a fact. So the Liberals have so much to do, and if Turner's going to take on the absolute Leviathan task of attempting to build all this up, well, good luck to him. And I must say, I thought he was a classy performer. I don't mind repeating that.
It was by far
his finest hour.
It was the best John Turner we saw throughout the campaign. Suddenly, he came up. He'd won quadra, lost the election overall, and there was a man who stood forward and projected himself as a true party leader, something that was hard to envision ahead of that night.
That's right. And to get the great line, in a free society, the people are always right. I gloried on his spunk. And I don't want to be like the CBC election telecasts. They were more concerned about the horses that were losing than the horses that was winning. So I don't want us to dwell on Turner, the leader of the Liberals, who for the time being lost. I say the time being because that's the way political history goes. Down the road from now, it'll probably be all different. Let's talk about the winners for a second.
I just want to ask you, do you think the Liberal Party is going to stay with Turner? Because some people are talking about a new leadership convention.
Well, the knives will be out. You know, the odd thing is, everything has changed around. Everything has changed around. Don Newman on the CBC telecast the other night made a very good point. He reached down to the two solitudes. He said, you know, in Ontario, people rejected Turner because Turner reminded Ontario voters of Trudeau and the Liberals. But people in Quebec accepted Mulroney because he reminded Quebec voters of Trudeau and the charisma and the personality and so on, of one of their own being there. And that was the election thing in Quebec. Vote for one of our own. That's what they were saying. We didn't have this shouted from the rooftops here in Ontario. Oh, you didn't read about it or hear about it in Western Canada. I just come back from there. But that's what they were saying in Quebec. They get on occasion racist as all get out when the gloves are off. Trudeau himself in Cité Libre wrote about that. He said there's no more fearful group than the backbenchers of the Quebec Liberal caucus. He talked about their terrible way of going. But it's interesting. There's been it's like a huge. It's as if the whole country has taken a giant kind of dose of castor oil. You know what I mean? I got to do that at 7 o'clock myself tonight before I go for an examination tomorrow. It's like the whole country's just had a cleansing, you know, and it's interesting to see how long it will last. I think poor old Jack Webster in Vancouver is right out of date. Here Jack should have known the numbers could not give the NDP the position of being the official opposition. He should have known his numbers when he come on the air live, and he also thought Turner would lose. So poor old Jack made two bets, blew them both. But you know, when you get, where was I? I was going around Cape Horn here. I've lost the thread. I don't know why. I'm going on a string here. As soon as you held your finger up, I thought, why is he giving me the Trudeau salute? And I realized it's 1 minute to go. Where it's always the same in broadcasting. You're always trying to put 29 pounds into a 3-pound sack. Isn't that the same? But let's talk just in the last few seconds about a winner. Mulrooney, in one sense, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be running around terrified about this. Some are even going to say this is Attila the Hun coming in. But you know, I think people in this country are desperate for winners. Desperate for winners. I don't mean at the betting wickets. I think they're desperate for winners, and I think they're going to cross their fingers and hope that this guy gets the job done.
Thanks a lot, Fred C. Dobbs. Video cue.